My big suggestion to students, particularly through high school, is
You can do anything.
Choose it for you, not for
It is worth it.
Just focus on the next
Doesn't
step.
matter what you're doing.
Don't be afraid.
As long as you're doing
That
something.
is such good advice.
I don't think I could see myself doing
It's a
anything else.
challenging life.
Student nights, Wednesday to
Oh,
Saturday.
I worked on that house.
I racked up every single dollar of debt that I
I
possibly
think there's
could.
a lot of pressure on high school.
Yeah, I
kids
just
these
love
days, right?
working outside.
And if money is something that you care a lot
In
about,
hindsight, that
I've
was,
also been a very indecisive
But you
person.
keep looking for roads that have been less
it
travelled.
was just that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. So nothing else is going to change that.
Welcome to the guest speaker.
Right, well, I'll get started. Rebecca, we're obviously really excited to have you on the guest speaker. In many respects, stories like yours are the stuff dreams are made of. That young kid who loves rugby, running, surfing, kayaking, playing golf, or sailing, dreams of doing it as a job. And so to hear from people like you will keep that dream alive for many of those kids as they aspire to be athletes or performers on the global stage. So let's dive in, or should I say, sail into your journey. Little dad joke. You started out at a poor school, then Bay of Islands College, before finishing up in year 12 at Springbank School. You've been open about the fact school wasn't really your thing. Classroom learning wasn't where you thrive, but what's powerful about that in your story is none of that actually mattered. And what happened next has been a special journey that any of us could aspire to. Not being suited to school or not doing well is not something we encourage kids to do, but we refuse to let those that sit in a similar boat not realise or not be informed through platforms like ours that the world is still their oyster, and that a rich and rewarding career can come just as easy as those kids that sit in a class and really thrive. After leaving school, you spent 6 months in Bermuda during the America's Cup while Dad was working there. And at just 17, you moved to Auckland to begin a rigging apprenticeship, learning the trade from the ground up. You qualified as a professional rigger, earned your NZQF qualification, and then took up your skills to Europe to work in professional sailing and rigging, building an international career through experience, grit, and technical mastery. Today, you're not just a professional rigger with more than 6 years' experience on land and sea, you're a history maker. As part of the crew aboard the 31.5 metre maxi trimaran IDEX Sport, sailing for the famous project CIC, you helped complete the first all-female, non-stop circumnavigation of the globe, crossing the Jules Verne Trophy finish line in just 57 days, 21 hours and 20 minutes, which for those listening is more than 16 days faster than the record set by Sir Peter Blake in 1994. You've competed internationally in things like the Sydney to Hobart, to the Fastnet, to the Caribbean 600, to transatlantic racing in the mod 70s, and you represent a new generation of sailors, highly skilled, really versatile, technically capable, and fearless in what is usually a male-dominated environment. What we love most is that you've said this is something you wanted to do as a little girl, which is really cool. It wasn't until you returned home after that famous round-the-world race, you realised the magnitude of what you had done. The support, the messages, and the young women who were watching and believing you could do it. And of course, the highlight of all being here today with Grace and I. This episode is especially for students who feel adventurous, for young sailors, ocean-loving travellers, athletes, sports people, and for young women who want to challenge limits and step into spaces where history may not have included them, but now is their time. Rebecca, welcome. Thank you so much for sparing time with us. And although I mentioned your schooling earlier, we really want to hear your thoughts and reflections on it, whether that be primary, secondary. How did schooling go and what sort of kid were you?
Thank you very much. That was a really nice introduction. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think that primary school was probably the biggest thing that shaped me. Being at Opera School, we had a lot of hands-on learning. We did a lot of environmental studies and gardening and things like that, which was really cool. That really set me up for the outdoorsy person that I am, I think. I then moved on to secondary school. I spent a year at Bay of Islands College and then moved to Springbank School, which is a Cambridge. We studied Cambridge IGCSE. So that was a really academic school, and it was something for me to adjust to. It wasn't so much of a hands-on. We did have outdoor education and stuff, and that was my favorite subject, hands down. Outdoor ed, my favorite subject. Yeah, but the school was really based around everyone wanting to go to university, getting UE, and yeah, I think it was myself and one other boy in the class that we weren't ever gonna be doing that. We wanted to get ourselves into doing something a bit different, more like an apprenticeship or something, and maybe we didn't actually know exactly what we did want to do when we were at school. But yeah, yeah, that's kind of what happened to me at school, I guess.
What sort of qualifications did you leave with, Rebecca? What?
I passed my IGCSEs and I don't know. I think that I passed the things I needed to for the A levels. So I think I just scraped through maths. I might have got a D in maths, and then I think I got an A in English, which was a surprise to everyone. We don't really know how that happened, but it was a bit of a fluke. Yeah.
Before I talk career, and it'll obviously lead there.
Yeah.
Where did the sailing come from? Obviously, I'm thinking dad. At what sort of age? And can you talk us through a young kid learning to sail and that life you were sort of maybe growing up with?
Yeah, so mum and dad like to tell this story about when they would take me out sailing in a car seat that they strapped to the outboard bracket of the boat, and they would try and do as many races as they could until I blew up and started crying, and then they'd have to come in to sort me out. But that's my first sailing experiences. So I grew up sailing in the Bay of Islands with my dad. He always had boats, and yeah, he just dragged me along with him, and that's where my love for it came from. Yeah.
So when did you start actually sailing yourself? And I'm presuming maybe even as a youngster you maybe started competing or not?
Yeah, I did a small amount of dinghy sailing growing up here, not a huge amount. That was probably my first sailing by myself. Otherwise, I would just do regattas and stuff with dad on his boats. He had some pretty high level yachts and he trained me up doing bow. He told me I had to start at the front of the boat and work my way back. But I still haven't worked my way back yet. I'm still at the front of the boat. So he loves it though. Yeah. Yeah. So then when I moved to Auckland, I started competing probably more professionally. But then when I moved over to Europe in the end, that's when it really started kicking off with my professional sailing career.
So can I just take you back to the thinking as we have kids sitting in schools? When
Yeah.
did you really start to go, that was, because I mentioned the study you did, the rigging apprenticeship and that, like when did you, was that when did you move purposely to Auckland to do that? Or were you going there anyway? What was that deliberate move for this, I suppose, career part or competitive part?
Yeah, I moved to Auckland to do my rigging apprenticeship. My parents always told me that if I wanted to try and do professional sailing, I had to have a trade under my belt or some sort of qualification. And it's ended up helping me a lot. Moving to Auckland to study for the apprenticeship has opened pretty much all of my doors in professional sailing as well. It's really beneficial for teams to have someone that can be technically able as well as sail in sailing terms as well as technically able. So yeah, so the rigging apprenticeship really, really has helped me get to sail more as well.
Are you going to talk about what, this might sound silly, what rigging is? Like, I know, I
yeah,
don't know, and so I get that. But if someone's listening and they're like, what are we talking about? Like, just take a step back.
Yeah, so rigging is pretty much all of the soft things on the boat. So I make all of the ropes and I look after the mast. So the thing that the sails hang off, the big tall thing, that's the mast on a boat. Yeah, so that's kind of my department. Yeah, so I make all the systems and all the ropes. So I do a lot of splicing, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
And
So how many apprenticeships are there? Because like when we spoke to Micah, and he's specifically I suppose an Olympic.
Yeah.
sailor, I didn't realize you could go. And so what, can you talk us through some of the range of apprenticeships that exist for kids and where some of them go? Like I'm guessing your one, you could have ended up maybe on some big yachts in the Caribbean, more of in the tourism industry maybe, but
Mhm.
walk us through the range and the possibilities and careers for us.
Yeah, so in the marine industry, there's a few options, and I tossed all of them up because I knew that I wanted to be in the industry, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So you can do a sail making apprenticeship. So that's says it in itself, making sails, which is a cool one. You end up in a big factory quite a lot doing that, but that also transfers really well into sailing too. Um, And then there is boat building. I didn't choose to boat building because it involves a lot of sanding and a lot of exposure to chemicals, but it's a really cool thing to learn. That's probably something that I would look into doing more soon, because that's really helpful for fixing boats and things like that. And then there's marine electrician apprenticeship that you can do as well. But that, for me, probably is a little bit too academic.
Okay. Now, that's actually wicked. And I'm imagining that sail making and that boat building, when if we've ever watched like an America's Cup documentary about the technologies and the research and the wind tunnels they use, it must be high end, particularly in the competitive field.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot to learn.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, the America's Cup is crazy with the technology and stuff that they're using at the moment, and they do use a lot of engineers and things that have massive university degrees as well. So there is a spot for everybody in the marine industry.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the academic side of that apprenticeship like in the rigging? So did you have did you have to write papers, or how did that work?
Yeah, so it's all theory based. They told me I was the only one doing the apprenticeship at the time, and they told me it probably should take me about a year and a half, and ended up taking me 5 years to do it, just because it was all paperwork based, and that's kind of something that I struggled with. Just probably more wanting to do it rather than actually being able to do it. It was a pretty straightforward thing to get done, but I was always off sailing, and I was ended up taking up a lot of time off work during my apprenticeship to go away and do sailing overseas as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier your first step into the professional field was when and where?
It's a really good question. They say professional sailing is the first time that you've been actually paid to go sailing for someone. So that's probably in 2019 when I sailed to Hawaii with Maiden from Auckland. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that like an employment thing, like, or any of your other work? Is that like a contract? Is that like, so if we're actually talking about it as a career, how does the career, the payment, the job side work?
That's a really good question. You kind of get scouted out by people. So in the sailing industry, it's really small, and it's kind of a who you know situation. So word of mouth gets you jobs, but you don't really get contracted in per se. You are self-employed, and then it's really hard because you do bounce around quite a lot. You bounce around from employer to employer essentially. So you kind of have to be quite fluid with what you do.
And
Yeah.
would you say too, this is tapping on to, and stick with me, we had a hairstylist on, the episode just came out, Jamie Lee, and she said that she wished there had been more financial literacy, because much like what you are talking about, it's a job that maybe goes for 9 months and then there's nothing and there's this. In terms of what you're doing, if it's not typical in the regular sense that maybe a student's familiar with, how much are you having to manage then? Okay, I have a job and I'm getting paid all the time. Are you just getting paid in that? What does that look like?
Yeah, so after we finish an event, so I sail for a lot of different owners. I sail probably for 4 different owners throughout the year, doing different events throughout the season. So I'll probably, in 1 month, I will end up going to 3 different events, maybe 2 as a sailor and 1 as a rigger. So it's a lot goes on, but I will invoice them for at the end of each event. So every 2 weeks, I'll send an invoice out for whatever I did for the amount of days that I did. And cash flow is a big problem, really. Like, I struggle a lot with payment, because you're not guaranteed you're going to get paid at a certain time. Like, people will pay maybe in a month's time after that. And then if I don't work for a month because the sailing season's off, then it's really hard to account for, and you don't know month to month. I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. Usually at the start of the month, I'll have an event, and then during the month, people will realize that I'm available, and then I'll get asked to go to another event. So you have to be really fluid and dynamic with what you're doing. But it always ends up working out, because there is a lot of work in the industry. It's just like knowing what you're going to do and when.
And is that why, and thank you, is that why like the boat building potentially interests you? Because could that be is that like another thing to add to what you could do?
Yeah, for sure. There are ways to make yourself have a more stable income in the industry as well. So like when I worked in Auckland just as a rigger, then you're getting paid normally. You just like are doing a normal tradie job. So you get paid every 2 weeks or whatever it is. But then when you break out by yourself and end up going overseas and doing things like that, then it becomes a little bit more tricky.
No, thank you. And that's the part that we like to call out too, because it sounds, I mean, as soon as you mentioned Hawaii, I'm like, that sounds so exciting. But also,
Yeah.
that part you have to remember is like getting some financial literacy under the belt as well would be beneficial.
Yeah, for sure.
When you say, Rebecca, you sail for owners, what are they, is their benefit for entering races? Are they like Formula One people who have lots of money and they want to win a race? They look at someone like you and they'll go, you'll help me win the race because you're good. Or is there something else? Like, where does the money come from to pay you?
Yeah. So there's two different ways that you kind of get jobs. So there's the owners, which is exactly what you said. There's owners that just enjoy going sailing and they want to win races, and then they're like, yep, you come with me, I'll pay you to sail my boat so that we can win. And then there's the other side of it, which is more of the French-based sailing, and they're really good at it. The French love offshore racing, and they get sponsored to do all of the races they do. So the going around the world, which I just did, we were sponsored to do that, and we got paid through sponsorship pretty much. Yeah.
Can you talk money a little bit? You know, like, are you an hourly rate, or you might for around the world you might get given a lump, $20,000? Like what money are we talking?
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yeah. No, so around the world we got a set rate for as long as it was going to take us. We didn't really exactly know how long it was going to take us. We got paid in euros. I think we got, do you want me to give you an amount? Is that, yeah. We got 15 grand to go around the world. In euros. So that's pretty nice. I mean, you are working nonstop for those 57 days. And then before that, we were on a monthly rate when we were training. But then for the owner sailing that we do, it's usually a day rate. Yeah, so it's around about the same. It all works out pretty similar. But everyone's on different amounts depending on your skill level and what you bring to the team.
And how competitive is it for you in your job? Without showing off, I'm presuming you must be one of the world's best, or at least in the top 5. Are you dominating that area or not?
Yeah, it's a hard thing to say as a Kiwi, but that's why they like us so much over there, because we're a bit humble. But yeah, I'd say I'm probably in the offshore sailing scene and keelboat sailing scene. In the women, I'm probably definitely top 5. It's a pretty nice feeling at the moment to be so wanted. Like, trying to sort out my calendar for this year has been quite a nice feeling, because I've been able to pick and choose, which is something new for me. Yeah.
Well, actually, talk through that, Rebecca. You've just said the word wanted. How does that work? And give us some examples. So your phone's running red hot. There's emails. There's people like us obviously contacting you as well. But the professional side, what does that look like? Is it literally just people from all around the world going, come with me?
Yeah, pretty much. So the industry is so small, you end up knowing pretty much everyone there. And there's different people that putting teams together for different events, and they'll just reach out to you and be like, hey, are you available for this event? And you end up getting at the moment I'm getting a few offers for the same event, and it's quite hard to pick and choose. It sounds really silly, but it's a good problem to have. But yeah, picking and choosing what I want to do and when, without overworking myself.
Yeah. What extra training do you do, Rebecca? I mean, do you have to gym it? Do you have to cardio? Like, I mean, I'm putting you in the athlete column of our podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, and you are. So what sort of stuff do you do? Training, nutrition?
Yeah, nutrition's probably my weak point. But I like eating whatever I want, whenever I want. So that's kind of what I do. But yeah, we do a lot of strength training, and I also enjoy road cycling. So it's just keeping generally fit and strong. A lot of the boats that we sail on are quite big boats, and everything is really heavy. So I do mostly focus on strength training and CrossFit.
Right.
Yeah.
Where is the world heading in terms of female sailing? Is there going to be an America's Cup one day with an all-female crew? Is there talk around? Where is the industry heading with
Mm.
male sailing, do you think? Have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, there is going to be another women's America's Cup this America's Cup cycle, so that's really cool. And in the youth class for the America's Cup as well, there has to be 50% of it as women too. So there's a lot of opportunity opening up in the professional sailing industry. And there's an event called the Admiral's Cup that's run every 2 years out of Cowes, and they've made a rule now that every team has to have a woman too. So there is a shortage of women in the industry, and like it's quite hard for teams to find good female sailors at the moment. So now's the time if you are a female sailor to get into it, because there is so much opportunity out there. Yeah.
Because Grace, I was going to say that's similar to the American university concept with offering scholarships. I mean, I'm thinking the
Yeah.
numbers of male sailors must be, I mean, I don't know as a percentage, but geez, now
Yeah.
with those things coming, if you're a female sailor and you're 13, 14, I'd start
Yeah.
training.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And if you're wanting to get into the bigger sailing boats like I do, you definitely, like, coming out of school should definitely get into a trade like that, because that's definitely what has opened all the doors for me. When I moved overseas, I didn't even go over there really looking into professional sailing. I mostly just went over there to keep rigging and then see what happened. And it really just blew up just because there's such a shortage of good, technically able women over there as well.
Well,
Yeah.
question. And I wrote
Yeah.
this down because you were talking about, and it's kind of reminds me a bit of Mike and how he got into sailing, but it started young. And here we're talking about there's a change in the industry, which is good because it reflects more and more female talent coming in. But if there's students listening who have never sailed and maybe they're like 16, 17, whatever, I heard Auckland's a good place to go. You do like the other sports. I guess if you hadn't have had your parents strapping you
Yeah.
to the side to the boat, basically, what do you think, or what do you see in some of your peers in the industry of how they got into the sport?
Yeah, so Dee Kafari, who's a big name in sailing, who sailed around the world with us, she didn't actually start sailing until she was 22. And she's probably one of the most decorated female sailors in the world. She's sailed around the world 7 times now. And she's a pretty cool story, really. She sailed around the world by herself and all sorts of things. And yeah, she, like I say, she was a school teacher, and then she went and did her yacht masters, which is a really English qualification to get done. I haven't got any qualifications like that, but she went and did that, and then decided she wanted to sail around the world. So she went and did it, and like now she's one of the best sailors that you can get as well. So you definitely can just end up leaving your job when you're 22 or whatever. It doesn't matter.
And do you think there's like, again, I relate to rowing a lot. They say like your peak, maybe even 30 is good, like because you know your body more and you've got those years. Is sailing
Mhm.
one that at some point you go, okay, less in the boat, more out of the boat, etc.? Is there age, not limits, but you know what I mean, like where you phase out?
Yeah. Sailing, there's quite a big age range. So there's like the different jobs on the boat demand different things physically. So there's grinders who are like the big, strong guys that all they do is be in the gym. Then there's the bow team who has to be a little bit more switched on with what's going on around the boat. So they need to know when the sails need to come up, when the sails need to come down, and they need to be a bit physically fit to drag the sails about. And then you move back in the boat and you get trimmers who are really, really smart guys, and they know how all the sails work, exactly how to trim them all to make the boat go as fast as possible. And there's guys that are still trimming, and we've got one guy that sails with us and he's 65 and he's a trimmer still. And then you get further back in the boat, and then the driver's usually the owner, with the owner sailing. And then even further back, tacticians, they'll be 65, 70 years old as well. As long as you can get across the boat, you're good.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I love to hear that because there's such longevity in the sport. But you mentioned like the
Yeah.
owners, sometimes the one driving, steering, and you can't speak about yours because I'm sure they're all wonderful. But that personality that comes from the owners sometimes, and they do want to maybe be leading, and you're like, oh man, you're slowing us down. Like, what's some of those
Yeah.
emotional parts where you have to balance? They're the one paying, but they're not.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. I'm just thinking it.
No, it can definitely be the case. But usually there is somebody that would be the owner, representative or the person that like coaches them. Sometimes we call them a driving coach. So each team will have a driving coach, or sometimes on the smaller teams it'll be the tactician that's the driving coach, and they kind of pretty much say turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right, and they kind of just coach the driver through it. But a lot of the owners that have been in the industry for a long time, they get pretty good. Yeah.
How much of your job, Rebecca, is personality, and like, because if you're in an office, someone wants to interview you just to know whether you're a little bit loopy or crazy. But is your job, do you feel a lot of it is the scarcity, or is it your talent, or is it a combination also of the fact you're actually quite an amicable, as Kiwis are, quite cool to be around? Is that important?
No, for sure. It's a huge thing. And like I said earlier, it's such a who you know kind of industry. So you kind of do have to be kind of outgoing to try and get into it all. Yeah, I wrote something down about this actually earlier because I was thinking about it. You do have to be pretty outgoing, and getting those opportunities. I think as Kiwis, we've been really lucky because we're all super humble. Yeah, it's a real balance of being outgoing and being cocky, and owners don't like people that are cocky. They like people that they can get along with, and a lot of the owner sailing is entertainment for the owners. So every night after sailing at an event, we will go for dinner with them. So we'll finish sailing, pack the boat up, and then at 8 p.m. go out for dinner with the owners. So you do have to really get along with the people that you work with. Yeah.
So you've been quite spoilt by some of these owners are rich people.
Oh yeah.
As you so, I mean, we interviewed a girl, Ellen, who worked on super yachts, for example.
Yeah.
There's an element of that same thing in your industry.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we do say that we are entertainers, and then like the buck really stops with the owner. Like if they don't like you, you're off the boat, even if you were the best sailor in the world. Yeah. So you do have to really put on a little bit of a show, not so much. Like your job is still there to be a sailor, but you do have to entertain a bit.
Yeah. So if we've now, those kids have listened to you and they're going, okay, I'm going down this route. What would your heads up be in terms of, but be aware? Like we talk financial grace raised. Are there other really have to consider than those people who live in a town and go to a job each day that you would say, but please be careful?
Yeah, I mean, you really have to make sure that you're happy with being able to be not in New Zealand. That's something that I kind of struggled with to start with. I love New Zealand. It's my favorite place to be, and it's where I want to be forever. But there isn't any professional sailing opportunity here. We don't have rich enough owners that want to go and do sailing. So I had to move overseas. And the days are long. When you're working, you're working. You don't get any downtime. It sounds really amazing. You're overseas in different countries. Every 2 weeks you're in a different country, but you don't really get that opportunity to explore as you might think you would. Like every job always sounds amazing from the outside, but there's always little things that little niggles like that. And then I think this other thing that I probably struggled with at the beginning was not being able to have a structure in my day. Like I'm quite a structured person. I do enjoy like waking up, going to the gym, going to work. I enjoyed that when I lived in Auckland as just a full-time rigger, and then going home, making dinner, and then like having a nice structured life. But this is quite different. You have to be really fluid and happy to chop and change with whatever's going on and work-wise.
Yeah. Is there ever any chance, like Micah, you racing in an Olympics or anything? Or is that just not your sailing?
Yeah, it's a totally different kind of sailing. I wouldn't ever be able to do that. That route that Micah went down was a dinghy sailing route, and I did try and do that a little bit, but it's so different, and it is a pathway that leads into what I do, but that's not the pathway that I went down.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that cool? We're learning, like, sorry, but sailing, I'm a bit naive. And now I'm like, oh, they're because that just shows when you're in it.
Yeah.
Yours and Micah's is very different elements, but the components, bare bones, seem the same to someone who's not in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then that, like, after Micah finishes his Olympic sailing, a lot of Olympic sailors come and do what I'm doing. So
Right.
yeah, it's a pathway into what I do.
Is
And
there,
and it's where the money's made, really. Yeah.
yeah, and I was wondering, and Loveland, you made me think it, like the health and safety part of it, because I'm thinking 57 days, yes, there's a lot of money in these boats, like that would freak me out as well. But your 57 days are in some literally random part of the world because you're constantly moving. Have there been times where you're like, shit, this is scary, or there's big waves, or you're feeling like you mentioned something like a marine electrician? That just sounds like
Yeah.
things shouldn't be combined, like water and like all of those things. Have you got some stories where you're like, not going to tell mom and dad about that one?
I'm pretty lucky. Mum and dad kind of know exactly what I do. A lot of the girls, their parents are super, I guess, naive to the fact that we are in terrible conditions sometimes. But yeah, I think that probably the worst conditions that we had was coming into the finish of the round the world race. We had Storm Ingrid that came in across us, and we had to sail through it. I don't know if you guys heard about it down here, but it was quite a big storm that came through the France and the UK, and we had 8-meter swells. So you can, what's that? 2-story high, 2 or 3-story high meter waves coming along across us, and we had 50, 60 knots of breeze. I wouldn't say I was scared because I had confidence in the boat and what we were doing, but it's probably the most fruity thing that I've been in, you know. I guess I'm kind of seasoned to it now. Yeah, I can't say I've really ever been super scared, but that might just be by personality.
Yeah, I'd be tapping out.
I remember your question, Grace, to Ellen, which was she worked on super yachts, and do you get seasick? And she did. Is that also
Yeah.
true? You did. Do you get
Yeah. Sometimes I don't. Like, I used to be really bad and I kind of grew out of it. But then when we left to go around the world and all the trainings and everything, I wasn't sick once. The day that we left, I was so sick. I was just spewing every time I came up on watch, and it wasn't great. But after 3 days, it kind of goes away, and then you're all good. And then I wasn't sick again after that. It was sweet.
Yeah. So if you were speaking at a school assembly or a group of sailing kids at a school, what would be your roadmap? What would be your suggestion? Obviously, there's no exact path to take, and you've mentioned some of this already, but what would your advice be to those aspiring young sailors? One of them might want to be Rebecca when they're older, but they might equally be a young boy who wants to be Micah. What's your advice to young sailors in particular?
I think that like the pathway that I took was quite a technical one in trying to get into the bigger boat sailing compared to what Micah did. And I think that being able to get an apprenticeship that helps with the sport under my belt was like probably the biggest draw card for me. Being a rigger has really got me every single job that I have pretty much. And I think that if you get a trade under your belt and you want to do the sailing and then go overseas and just use that trade, and just work on your relationships with people in the industry while you're doing your apprenticeship. People in New Zealand are super connected everywhere around the world in the industry. So they, like, even if that's just little old mate that works in the paint shed at the boatyard that you're working at, like he would have been overseas working for Sail GP at some point in his life, painting boats there, and he'll know Ben Ainsley or something like that, you know, like that's how connected New Zealand is in the industry. So you just got to keep your ear to the floor with opportunities and just take every opportunity that comes through you.
Is it also, again, I'm just jumping back to the super yachts. In that industry, we were seen as like the unicorn Kiwis.
Yeah.
Are they similar?
Yeah, no, for sure it's similar. There's a lot of us at events, all the events I go to, there's definitely always at least a handful of Kiwis there, and everyone loves having Kiwis on their boats.
Okay.
Like the owners love Kiwis. Yeah.
Now, I'm being remiss because if we were talking uni, I would have said about your apprenticeship, what does it cost? What's the name of the place where I do it? What's the accommodation like? And I feel a bit guilty about this. So can you just fill us in? You just mentioned you go to Auckland, but where do you go and who runs it and what does it cost and where did you stay? Just like a kid who heads off to uni, you're going for a qualification.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to be able to move down to Auckland and stay with my sister's godmother. And I just got a job with a rigging company. It was Doyle Rigging. And that was the first company that I started with, and they paid for my apprenticeship. you do have to be a bit careful because some companies won't do apprenticeships in rigging. Rigging is quite a hard one to get, but I was the only one doing it at the time, and it's starting to get better. I heard there's another girl in Auckland now. She's just started her apprenticeship, so that's really cool for her. But yeah, I just moved down to Auckland, lived with my godmother for a bit, and then ended up moving out and then moving to another job. And yeah, so the apprenticeship is free. Usually all companies will cover that for you because they like having new young people coming through. I think they do think that you'll hang around for a bit. I didn't end up doing that, which was probably a little bit bad for me, but they also understand that there's a big wide world out there, and all the guys in the industry and that are working there have also done that, been there, done that as well. So they all understand that you want to get out and see the world.
And who does your qualifications sign off in that? Who comes to mark stuff or assess you? It's not them, obviously.
No, so you do your paperwork, and then I think it's called MAST now, MAST Academy. It's the marine industry NZQA thing, and then yeah, they have 3 different guys that come around to all of the businesses, and every 2 months or something they'll come and visit you and then sign off your paperwork with you and talk about what you did wrong or where you could have gone better. But yeah, I think it's also becoming, when I did it, it was all paper based, but I think that they're doing a lot more online now, so maybe that's a little bit easier than that. Yeah, but there was no actual practical hours based thing. It was all just getting paperwork done.
Cool.
Yeah.
What does the future look like for you, Rebecca? Do you have aspirations, plans? I mean, we talk, the phone's running red hot, and maybe you just soak that up for a few years. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm keen to just soak it up for a few years and just see where I go. Like I said, I'm still at the front of the boat doing the bow or the mid-bow area, and I'd love to move back and be in further back in the boat and like change my role a bit per se on the yacht. But yeah, I guess the next step that everyone keeps telling me is that I'd have to start seeing if I could run my own campaign, like an ocean race campaign or something like that, which is more sponsor-based sailing. And then I think that's kind of the next step after that if I wanted to get into that. So it's something that I'm thinking about, but I'm not 100% sure which route I want to go down yet.
Yeah. And just for everyone listening or watching too, before we started, I don't know whether this was on the podcast, you're in the Bay of Islands. I always ask Kiwis who have a lot to do with overseas, what's your relationship with New Zealand? How much do you spend here? You've already said you love being here, so you've obviously still a proud Kiwi. But yeah, what is that relationship? How long are you at home for? And
It kind of depends. This year I am home for 2 months, which is super nice, but it depends what happens with the season or what jobs I've got on. So I try and come back for 2 months a year over Christmas, and then sometimes I'm sailing over Christmas as well. But every year I like to come back for the summer a little bit because the UK winter scares me a bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a huge fan of the cold, so yeah, but I do enjoy being able to come back, and that's a really cool thing about the job as well. You do have that freedom to kind of pick and choose what you do, and come back. So that's cool.
I just have to ask this for my own personal thing. When I read about you, have you got a bit of Swiss in you? Is that
Yes, yeah, my mum's Swiss.
full Swiss?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but I grew up here. I grew up in New Zealand my whole life, so yeah.
Cool. Hey, look, before Grace does all of her end stuff, I just want to thank you first, obviously, for answering my call when I reached out with you. I thought it might be a long shot because right at that point in time, I'm sure the phone was red hot. You'd just done an amazing thing. And the article I read was pretty incredible. And
Thank you.
I know there's a lot of people out there who are really proud to have someone like you on our side. But congratulations for everything you do. And thank you for helping, because like I say, there'll be a lot of kids and a lot of parents sort of nervously thinking, oh, damn it, my kid wants to sail forever. Is that really a career? And I think you've proven today that it really is a real option, boys and girls, but obviously the girls is something that they should really look at if that's something they love. So yeah, congratulations. Thank you very much for spending time with us. You've been awesome.
Cool. Thank you very much for having me. It's been really cool. Thank you.
Cool.
I have just a couple questions, and it's the same thing. So we know this is going to inspire the students, but even me, I'm listening, and suddenly I'm like, I should sail. Like you say, she started at 22. I'm like, 27, too late. So that's how motivating this conversation is. But I did want
Yeah.
to ask, because there's so many things in the industry that you probably have endless stories. Is there anything that we didn't ask you today, or something that came up in your mind that you thought of that we should have asked, or that you want to get out there?
I don't think so. I pretty much said everything that I kind of thought I would say. Um, I think I just really wanted to, like, I did say it, but that it's not just, you're not just traveling around the world. Like it really does seem like the grass is super green when I talk about it, because it sounds like, oh, she's going, like, one day she's in Spain, next day she's in Italy, next day she's in England. But like, it is a super demanding job and you don't get any downtime at all. And that's something that you really have to be ready for, rather than, like, it's not a big old holiday. A lot of people come to me being like, wow, you pretty much just have a holiday. I'm like, oh, no. I start work at 7 a.m, go sailing all day. You don't get off the boat until 7 p.m, and then have to be at dinner with the boss at 8 p.m. until 10, 11. And then the next day we do it again, I mean, it could be a lot worse, but don't get me wrong. But that's something that you do have to be prepared for, is the long days and a lot of travel. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's important. And you've used so many terms like entertainer, athlete, like you're the tradie as well. Like there's all these different things you fit into. And that is a huge part, because you're on a boat, 57 days in one go at some points.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things you got to be factoring in. It's not a stop sort of job, so it's a lifestyle. So
Yeah.
I think that's wicked.
Yeah.
Last question, we always ask this, is you've given a lot of advice to everyone, but if you could just go back Bex to Bex, year like 12, 13 sort of age, what advice would you give yourself directly?
I think I would probably tell myself to really lock in for my apprenticeship. It was something that I really struggled with and I really dragged out. And I could have been in Europe doing what I'm doing, making more money 3 years earlier if I really locked in. But yeah, I think that I would tell myself that I've done really well and that I should be really proud of what I am about to do and what I am doing, because yeah, even though it took me a while to get there, we got there, and yeah, we're nailing it.
Yeah, look at
Awesome.
yeah. Thank you so much, Rebecca, and take care in the Bay of Islands today. I hope you get out on the boat. If anyone's listening, I've been following you on social media, and I presume you've been out there, because the last few weeks or so, I've just seen you flying along in boats. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, as much as you say the job's hard, I think the life you're living up there at the moment looks pretty cool. So, but
Oh no, it is. I'm
Yeah.
very lucky. I know I'm very lucky. Yeah, no, it's super cool. Thank you very much. Magnific.